From the center of the galaxy, this is ForceCenter, a show about Star Wars pop culture and the ultimate adventure, surviving life itself, which is also an adventure, life and surviving. I'm Ken Naps.
I'm Jen Landa.
And that was me barking. I learned to throw my voice. I'm Joseph Scrimshaw was what I said in the language of barks.
The language of barks. I might have a bark interruption. Grace is out of town, and my Chihuahua Francis has made an appearance on every show I've recorded this weekend because she's a little, she's not happy. She's not happy. A little depressed, a little needy right now. So the door to the studio is open. We're here to discuss Star Wars news. We've got some stories to catch up on from last week, and even I think one kind of from the weekend or the cusp of the weekend that we're going to discuss. Before we do that, as always, we want to remind you that today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/ForceCenter. Over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. We also love to recommend a book, and we are going to a classic here, Rebel Rising by Beth Revis. Classic because it's almost 10 years old, maybe like 9-ish, but it's also one of our favorite books, one of my personal favorite Star Wars books out there. Download your free audiobook today by going to audibletrial.com/ForceCenter. Again, that's audibletrial.com/ForceCenter for your free audio book. That's the A of Audible. Joseph, we have the A of Ask.
Yes, we do. And at some point, we've been promoting Rebel Rising for years because for some reason it just didn't make noise. And I absolutely love that book. I think it's kind of vital to Jen's story. At some point, we should just do a poll of seeing how many people have we convinced to listen to Rebel Rising?
Yes.
I hope 10. That's what I'm clinging to. That we convinced in the last 8 or so years, at least 10 people to read or listen to Rebel Rising. And now's an extra good time, in my opinion. Anyway, our asks, besides checking out Rebel Rising, is to get to our next goal of paid patrons on Patreon. Our Patreon is the number one thing that keeps us going. When we get to 430 paid patrons on Patreon, we're going to release on video a classic episode of our show Star Wars Ranked with new visual flair, with actual images of the things we're talking about. So if you're interested in helping us out, go check us out on Patreon. You can also follow us on Blue Sky, where we are trying to skeet more often.
That's right. I woke up the other day. I was like, we need to be skeeting every day on there. And then I poured my coffee and forgot to do it. So I'm going to make a note. I'm trying to do better personal notes every day. One of the things I was going to say we should.
I'm sorry. The waving Post-its is like a Steve Martin level. Look, I have my life together. Yes. I have a stack of Post-its from 3M.
I'm obsessed with Post-its. My old job, I had Post-its all around the computer screen, and the guy who replaced me banned Post-it notes after he took over. True story. What I was going to say, we have in our notes to promote, and one of the things I was going to promote is we're doing Star Wars Questions Live, but I realized that's already happened. So thanks to everyone that came out and watched our live recording of Star Wars Questions. It's going to be kind of a regular thing here. Every Monday, we're going to fire up the old hyperdrive here and record our question episode live, clip out some great questions that you all ask us live, all those things. So that happened yesterday. Thanks for that. Look for that in the future.
Mm-hmm. Very excited for that. So I don't think we have anything else to promote. So we're on to life adventures, which I think are extra fun and spicy right now, right, Ken?
They are indeed. Jen, you kick us off with your spicy life adventures today.
Oh, they're not spicy. They're depressing. So I have nothing to add. I've been studying while the Department of Education is under fire, which would directly impact what I'm studying for the job. So that's been a lot of fun. There's just there's no way to spin it. It's like literally you're in a maze and I'm like, okay, entertainment industry is dying. Okay, journalism is dying. I'm like running through the doors and I have this one door. I'm like, education. That's going to be, and then now that door is now being closed.
Yeah.
So,
have you thought of getting into chaos? Because I think that's the only industry that's remaining strong.
There's literally I don't know. So yep, I got nothing positive to report. Back to you, Stu.
Uh,
Are you enjoying what you're studying right now? Like, what's the actual class load you have? What are you working on?
Yeah, I'm enjoying my neuroanatomy course, which
Ooh.
is really fascinating. She's like, "Oh, you'll remember this from high school biology." I did not. I'm like, I didn't learn about the neurons and axons and whatever. I'm
no.
like cranial nerves. Like I didn't learn about that, but it's
Mm,
really fascinating. It's just it's a lot of work. A
Mm,
lot of work.
mm.
mm,
Who knows? The future is yet to be written.
that is right. Uh, Ken, how about you?
Well, Jen, have you considered the ASMR YouTube field? Because fake cranial nerve exams are the most popular ASMR video. So
Wait, what?
oh yeah,
No.
yes, 100%.
What?
Go on when you're done today. When you have 2 minutes of downtime, just type ASMR cranial nerve exam, and boom, 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 boom. You're going to see videos with millions of views. So maybe you could launch your Dr. Jen ASMR YouTube channel where you can pretend to do cranial nerve exams.
There
And there you
are
go.
5 cranial nerves.
There are. Um,
Is there a crinkling sound that goes with them?
Usually,
cranial
yeah,
nerve?
yeah, yeah. Usually, yes. There's tapping and touching, and it's a lot. It's a smorgasbord of triggers, ASMR triggers. It's pretty funny. And then I don't know. I could talk too much about ASMR, but these are not medical professionals, which they declare in the YouTube description. But they've studied enough to where I sometimes feel I'm an expert on cranial nerves. Just all the videos I've watched, where I'm like, oh yeah, we do this and you do that. It's fascinating. Fascinating.
Wow.
So
Well,
Jen,
there you go.
run through that door.
A door has been opened. Thank you. Or a window. A window's
window.
been opened. Thank you, Ken.
A crawl space. My life adventures and Star Wars life adventures. Yeah, kind of null and void too. It's just we're all kind of hunkering down and getting through things, and I'm having one of those don't want to wake up ever life. Just kind of stay in bed the rest of my life kind of vibes. So I'm trying to find the positive. It's hard, and that's what's going on. Though we've used it here a few times since the show's aired, and I use it even on my other shows, the Blather and everything, of that pinprick of light. That was the big kind of theme, especially towards the end of Skeleton Crew. It's been very important for a lot of people, and myself included, both just in my personal life, but also when you're scrolling through news headlines. It's tough to find not just generic good news, but reasons to have any kind of hope that not just the world around you is going to get better, but that people can pull through, and people you know and people you love. So yeah, that's kind of what I've been trying to look for, both inside myself and outside, the pinpricks of light. And it's dim right now, but I love turning to Star Wars for that.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll keep doing
Hmm.
Yeah, no, I think a lot of people are probably having similar weeks for people who are paying any attention to what's going on
Yeah.
in America. Yeah, I think I worked on my editing. I watched some movies. I've been rewatching Twin Peaks, so I had some nice dreamy time in Twin Peaks land. But then I just had a lot of times of trying to contain fury, which is also a fun Star Wars adventure of what
Yeah.
amount of anger is motivating and what amount of anger is just making it so you can't function. But I do feel strongly that it's such a hard time, and it's such a hard balance to try to be aware of what's going on, because it's so very, very important and so very time sensitive, the attack on democracy that's going on. And I feel like when I don't check the news, I'm burying my head in the sand. And when I do check the news, I feel like I'm burying my head in acid. So I've spent the entire week going, what is the exact right substance to bury my head in, where I am entirely aware of what's going on, but also finding productive ways to act on it and to cope with it and to process it. And I think people should be paying attention to what's going on. It is not normal. And I think being prepared for that things can get bad. You can be aware that things are bad and getting worse and still be hopeful. And that's the Star Wars challenge, which was my Star Wars adventure was, we've generally fallen off the list of being sent books because we haven't been doing our reviews, which fair enough. Last night I went to a screening of Fire Walk with Me. It's a difficult film, but a really wonderful communal experience. And I came home, and then in my mailbox was a Star Wars book, and they haven't sent it to us in a while. And in particular, it was this new one, Reign of the Empire, which is about the very first days of the Empire taking over, and Mon Mothma and Organa going, wait, this is really bad. What are we going to do about this? And it felt like Star Wars was being like, hey, I understand what you're going through. Perhaps here's a manual to help out.
Yeah. I look forward to reading that one. Wonder if my mailbox will have a surprise in it too today. But
I think so.
Yeah, and a lot of good early reviews of that book too. And that and Andor season 2 are going to be curiously timed, is how we'll describe them.
Yes, curiously timed is a great way to say it.
Well, that's it was at the conclusion of your wonderful film. I did see you post a picture from the theater on Firewalk with Me.
Yay, Egyptian theaters. Beautiful theater. People get a chance to go to films there. It's a really great experience.
Yes, it's been a few years for me, but beautiful indeed. Part of our history. Well, with that, we're going to get into some Star Wars news. But Joseph, you've got some stories pulled, some questions to ask. Where are we going with this one?
Yeah, so we got some, I think, fun news to talk about. Sigourney Weaver talks Grogu badassery. So Sigourney Weaver was interviewed by an outlet called Games Radar Plus. The nature of the quotes feel like she was probably asked questions on a red carpet or at a press junket, because it isn't a conversational back and forth. The quotes aren't clarified of what the setting was, but they're kind of snippets that feel like the kind of answers that actors give on red carpets or quick press junkets. And they, all of her comments got spun off into their own individual articles about different franchises. So it's also one of those situations where, hey, everything is about the clicks. But here's her specific quote on the Mandalorian and Grogu movie, which she is involved in. She says, "I get to have scenes with the little Grogu," which is probably why I did the movie. And he's a little badass too. It's going to be wonderful for people to see what Grogu is up to now, because he's grown up a little bit and is capable of much more than maybe we think just watching the series. I play a wonderful character who is, in a position of authority, and I have to send the Mandalorian out on a mission on the Outer Rim where all the bad stuff happens. So there has been other reporting about what Sigourney Weaver is playing and what the character's name is, and to me it just feels like we'll find out. This was really interesting to me because it's the first bit of kind of speculation about characters and character growth and what's going on with them. So I'd love to talk about that. Jennifer, given the Sigourney Weaver quote, what are your hopes for Grogu and his badassery in this film?
I hope that it will be interesting when she says that he's grown up more. He's frozen in time for me as a baby, right? Who's like kind of cooing and gets tired after he uses the Force. He needs a little nap, getting into mischief, eating things he shouldn't be. That's part of the charm of the character. So to see him grown up will be an interesting thing. And I don't know what that means. Does it mean he's going to be like Yoda, Attack of the Clones, right? I hope not. Personally, I hope not. Although, that episode of him in the Book of Boba Fett where he's like hopping around, that was really cute and fun. So maybe it's just more hopping around. I can get behind that. Grogu and badass does not seem to really. It's like, this toddler is a badass. What?
Yeah. I think it tracks for me, given the trajectory of season 3 of The Mandalorian, that he had been trained with Luke a little bit, and then he was being kind of asked to train as a Mandalorian. And there's there's the scene where he has the test, the conflict, right? Mm-hmm. And he hops around with he's challenged by the other Mandalorian kid. And then that big finale climax, he's using the Force much more directly and with much more awareness, right? Of like throwing weapons to Din with the Force, and he's using the Force in a knowing and tactical way. Like it isn't just like an emotional outburst or an intuition moment. It's, I know I can do this. I'm confident I can do this. I have power, and I'm choosing how I use it. And it's really interesting to me I think that's my guess of that. That's where the badassery is coming from, that he's studied the Force, he's aware of it, he's connected to it, and he's being very mindful and choosy of how he uses it, and is maybe really powerful. And like, I don't hide in buckets anymore when Dad's in trouble. I strut into the bar behind him, and when somebody takes out a blaster, I throw him against the wall. I'm like, no, leave my dad alone. And I'm very mindful that I'm doing that. Now, it'd be really interesting to me if it's that level of mindfulness about his abilities and how to use them is combined with also still eating crap he shouldn't. Like, I'm very mindful when it comes to the Force. Other than that, I still have the eating habits of a toddler. Would be charming and interesting to me. Ken, where do you go with Grogu and badassery?
He's going to walk into that bar with a blaster in one hand, a little lightsaber in the other. He's going to have a little death stick sticking out of his mouth. He'll be about 4 inches taller. He'll have a wispy little mustache that's coming in. And he's going to have some catchphrase, and it's going to be on all T-shirts. No? Is this not working for anyone? Okay. No, I first of all, John, I really agree with you on talking about a character stuck in time. And this is going to be the first big test. I think they're going to age him up. The movie makes sense to do it. And I know there's some clips out there. I can't remember. I didn't analyze the face of Grogu in the clips that have been, from conventions and stuff so far with Zeb and everything. But this is the perfect place to do it, right? Like let's build up this. I want to hear his first words, all those things. The movie's the place for me to do it. In terms of badassery, just being more aware, like you're saying, Joseph, and in the fight, and not falling asleep after putting a Rancor to sleep, though that's the cutest thing in the world. So maybe we'll get more of that. And just this truly being the title, Mandalorian and Grogu, and them out and about, and whatever's going on in the Outer Rim. We know there's, we can talk about plot leaks and details and speculations all day, but I just love the idea of the two of them, like truly father and son, going out to kick ass, take names, chew bubble gum, space gum, whatever. Catchphrases. It'll be interesting. And I think it speaks to a little bit of a older Grogu, which, Jen, just means new rounds of merch.
Mm-hmm.
I just am in my mind picturing him to be a little bit taller, and like skinnier, like approaching 9 or 10. Like there's times where I look at my kid, I'm like, oh my gosh, you're like almost a tween. Like it's a weird thing. And I could see that with Grogu. In fact, now I kind of want to see teenage Grogu because it just would be weird.
Yeah.
Oh,
60-year-old
What if it's
Grogu?
just like his teeth come in and his teeth are really big and like Sonic the Hedgehog.
Or he's got space braces.
Drops.
Space braces. Yeah. I love the I came here to eat frogs and kick ass, and I've realized it's maybe not right to eat frogs. So I'm sorry. Gotta kick your ass. Yeah, I wonder if some of the growing up is also going to be I will absolutely let it go if this is not what the film is about, but I keep feeling like the place for Grogu to go emotionally is to face his past trauma. And I can maybe see a version of the film where he's learning to be a Mandalorian. He's learning from his dad. He's taking part in things. He's using the Force calmly and wisely. But as soon as he has to face trauma or fear of losing Din, he starts to break down and maybe even get a little stuck in time because he's maybe not growing or speaking because he hasn't faced this trauma of what happened to him in the dark times, which I will continue to think is partially losing Keller and Beck, and that there's a possibility of seeing that in the film. Jennifer, how would you feel if the film is about Grogu kind of having to face the fear of loss, and that's a part of the way he's growing up, is more almost like emotionally getting past maybe like the blocks that are stopping him from blubbering his first little words?
I don't know. I imagine that we'll get some sort of flashback or something. I think it just can be like just they have this strong bond between him and Mando. And what would that be like to be separated from your parent, or to know that maybe your parent is in trouble and you're the one that has to save them, right? Like, I think that's strong. And anybody who, even if you haven't seen The Mandalorian, you're going to get that, as opposed to, I don't know, who knows, whatever. I think it'll be fine. I think it'll be fine. They'll figure it out, but I don't have any stake in that.
Yeah. Ken, what are your thoughts on Grogu being aged up emotionally, not in any way physically, but that's more about the character maturing?
Which, but even based on those clips, now thinking about it, could be more the possibility. Look, I've got to kind of do what you just said about yourself of let it go if it's not part of it. I am so expecting not just a flashback, but like a sequence back in time, like the movie starting with Kelleran Beck and Jar Jar saving him, and that Naboo ship they're going to, all that stuff that we've kind of been holding on to and speculating wonderfully wildly. I've got to maybe prepare for the impact of that not being there, because I'm just I just want to see that. It's just the big story that's still out there in Grogu's past. So we've talked about in the past of the Mandalorian and Grogu being very much also about Grogu's journey in the past to here, not just filling in the story blanks, but tracking his trauma as he moves forward. He the stuff with Luke and choosing between Jedi and Mandalorian and finding a way forward with it. It's all about his emotional growth, without a doubt. So it makes sense that we'd have it kind of build to a new level. And that maybe what Sigourney's talking about is the badassery of being able to talk about your emotions. Just sitting down and have a conversation. His first words are, I'm getting better. Like, it could be a therapy session. I know she's not playing a space therapist, but maybe Grogu could have that. And I agree with you. Jokes aside, I think it's not just simply aging up the character with a little wispy mustache that I want to see, the same one I had in 7th grade, but his ability to communicate. His first words, beyond just the fun kind of trivia aspect of that, what will his first words be? The Maggie Simpson of it all back in the day, if you all remember that hype for her first words. Just the fact that he'll be able to communicate more is part of that growth too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. Well, speaking of Din, of the actual Mandalorian, Sigourney Weaver says, I have to send the Mandalorian out on a mission on the Outer Rim where all the bad stuff happens. So the idea of Sigourney Weaver as an authority figure sending Din on mission suggests that, we're maybe going to pick up the thread that season 3 ended on, of Din needing to train Grogu on how to be a Mandalorian, and asking Carson Teva basically, hey, can you send me on noble jobs against Imperial remnants? As I want to demonstrate a noble version of being a bounty hunter in a Mandalorian to Grogu. How do you feel about Sigourney Weaver being an authority figure that is sending Din on specific jobs, Jen? Where does your mind go?
I mean, initially I was like, oh, she's going to be a senator or somebody like that, which to me kind of is boring. I'm like, you have Sigourney Weaver. Give her a lot to do. And maybe she'll have a prominent role in this movie. I hope so. I hope that it's not just like, quick meeting and, oh, here's your mission. I also hope that what you guys are talking about is this, like, this depth of the character. I hope that that's there, and it's not just mission to mission to mission, which for me, I kind of started struggling with the last couple seasons of The Mandalorian. I kind of just grew tired of that formula, even though I know that that's the formula of the show. I want it to be something a little bit more than just that. And I hope that they give Sigourney Weaver a little bit more than just to stand there stately in a nice, robe and be like, here's your mission. Like, I'm sure that they will. I'm sure that they will, but
yeah, I hope there's at least some sort of conflict in it, of like, is she going rogue? Is this, not something that she thinks should be taken care of, but maybe like I'm braced for a real good scene or two with Sigourney Weaver. Clearly somehow being around some badassery, so maybe they rescue her from something, but then hey, Sigourney Weaver doesn't really need rescuing. Anyway, Ken, how do you feel about Din's role and how this quote about getting a mission from an authority figure might play into what Din's going to be going through in this film?
Yeah, I think that tracks to, like I said, picking up the strains of season 3. And, is there going to be any challenges for him going forward as he tries to walk the good path? Is someone going to try to pull him back in? Will his past come to haunt him? I think he's moved beyond a lot of that. That was the journey of the last 3 years. That final shot, even if that's the last thing we're ever to see of him, relaxing, waiting for good jobs with his boy on a little cabin in the wild wilderness there, was a good way for me to end of just where he is. But I'm excited to see him go forward. I'm excited to see him do something decidedly good, decidedly right within the grand scheme of the galaxy. I know there's lots of out there of what she is playing, even down to the character's name. So we'll see how that factors in. I'm intrigued just in terms of guessing, like you said, Joseph. She's her being able to speak on badassery. Was she just on set for badassery? Was she in a scene with badassery? I'm with you, Jen. You got Sigourney Weaver. Let's do something big and grand. Every time Favreau has cast someone in the show, we've all been like, yay! And then it's like, oh, it's a scene, and they sat down the entire time and talked. And there's been some great stuff. I'm not downplaying it, but I'm just thinking of Tim Meadows, great part. Great little scene. Christopher Lloyd, he said the words Dooku on screen. It's Separatist, loved it. But it wasn't as meaty as maybe I wanted. So I'm kind of bracing for impact on this one. That she literally might just be sending them on a mission, and then getting on out of here. But yeah, that's kind of I'm excited for it. I'm excited for that on a big scale. It's just a good, simple framework for a larger story. And can someone, once you change, can you stick with it? And does it feel right? And that's one of the things I'm looking for with them.
Yeah. I think I'm really braced for Sigourney Weaver having a hopefully really fun appearance, but not a huge role. And I would be thrilled to be wrong. I feel like Din's journey in this film is, I trust that it will be interesting, but it is the biggest kind of question mark for me, because I trust that this film will be entertaining, that the action set pieces will be great, that Favreau will be like, great, I'm going to knock it out of the park and make this big and cinematic in terms of the action and the comedy and the charm. I trust all those things. What I want to know is how big of an emotional journey is Din going to go on. And to me, where they left him, if he wants to demonstrate nobility for his child, I really want him to be tempted to be not noble, to be broken and demonstrate poorly for his child. Kind of emotional conflict under the mask.
Yeah.
How do we feel about Grogu being one of the draws for actors to do Star Wars? Sigourney Weaver says that he's not only a badass, he's probably why I did the film. Do you like, Ken, the idea that Grogu is a draw for actors to do Star Wars? Is there any big name actor out there, do you think, that would say no to being a scene partner for Grogu?
Oh, who would say no? Yeah, probably like a Michael Shannon would say no. He'd say no. I was gonna say there'd be probably a point in time where De Niro would say no, but no, I'm pretty sure he'd say yes at this point there.
Oh, yeah.
It also makes anyways. I love that. I love this. I love that this is the absurdity and the power of Star Wars, where we were talking about an 18-inch tall prop that's essentially been breathed all this life into it, and it becomes so real. I don't know. It's like people talking about being on the set of Phantom Menace when they're using practical, or even Last Jedi when they're using practical for Yoda, and just it's this lifeless thing, a lump of material sitting in a chair, but it's not. It's Yoda. It's the character. It feels real. Frank Oz doesn't even need to be in the room, and you feel like you're talking to it. So I love that Grogu pretty quickly became that status. Just all the behind the scenes stuff. Hell, even George in a blurry picture of him reacting to Grogu. It's real, baby. It's real. And if that brings more A-listers or just great actors to Star Wars by choice, I love this. It's a fascinating little subplot of the entire Mandalorian phenomenon.
Yeah. I love that behind the scenes of the puppeteers making Grogu bop along to Rodriguez playing the guitar.
Oh yeah.
Like, well, this being is real. And back in the day, they did one of those a joke documentary on one of the Star Wars releases about R2D2 being a real actor and being typecast as R2, and that I would love for them to do something
That'd be great.
about everybody working with Grogu. What's it like to work with Grogu? Who's the real Grogu? It's just it's delightful that the puppet and the puppeteers are created such a character that's irresistible that people instead of having the normal don't work with kids or animals. Grogu's going to make me look better. I want to work with Grogu. So beautiful that people have something to agree on there. My guess for somebody who would say no is Russell Crowe. I just got a vibe that
he would totally say, well, he did those Marvel movies. It was so I need a paycheck, mate. But yes,
that's true.
But the spirit would be to say no.
Yeah,
that's a great answer. That's a great
Jennifer,
answer.
how do you feel? Who do you think would say no, and how do you feel about the general phenomenon of people wanting to work with the great actor Grogu?
I don't think anybody would say no. It's like the Muppets, right? Like, who's going to say no to the Muppets or Sesame Street? You're going to do it. And it's not just like that. It's cute, right? He's an icon. Grogu's an icon. And it's also marveling at the technology of the whole thing. They want to be able to, and the volume, people are so entranced. I hear actors talking about oh my gosh, and there were all these screens. It really felt like there was a ship there or whatever, right? I just think that actors want to be a part of that they've created. Grogu, the magic of Grogu and the magic of the volume and what they're doing over there with Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni. It's pretty cutting edge.
Yeah.
Pretty high tech.
If you could play a scene with Grogu, what kind of scene would you want to do as an actor? Would you want to be in an action scene with him? Would you want to be in a dialogue scene with Grogu? What kind of Grogu scene would you get the most out of doing as an actor?
I would love like Amy Sedaris as oh my gosh, why am I going to call her Pip?
Pelly, but I'm sure as a kid her nickname was Pip.
Yeah.
Pip and Pelly.
Yeah, just how she's mom-like and I want to hold Grogu is what it amounts to. I want to hold Grogu, soothe him, maybe burp him, whatever it is. That's just what I want. Yeah. Touch him Jabba.
I want to play the therapist. I want to get down in his face and grill him and watch him, look away from me and not want to talk.
Oh, Grogu.
Ken, what scene would you want to play with Grogu?
I would want it to be a scene I play every day with my dog, or in the past where I've babysat younger humans, where I just have normal conversations and fill in the answers I want. I one time turned to my cousin, when he was 5 or 6. My uncle was driving the car, and I turned to him. I go, "Let me ask you this question: Dan Rather, Ted Koppel, Peter Jennings, or Tom Brokaw? What's your favorite?" And he loved it. He had no idea what was going on, and my uncle just thought I was crazy. I want that scene with Grogu. I want to be like a rebel agent in the kitchen preparing some food. Brad Pitt School of Acting, always eat some food. And just being like, yeah, what do you think? What do you think about this Mothma? Is she going to be any better than Palpatine? Just have that kind of conversation with Grogu, where he's not ready to answer. Just kind of gives you that.
Yep, he just burbles. Yeah, burbles along. That's great.
I want to know who the answer is. Ted Koppel, Dan Rather, Tom Brokaw. Those are some great names.
I was a Peter Jennings guy, which is weird. Cigarettes and attitude. But I think we more watched Brokaw in the house.
Yeah, I like
Brokaw. Always got on my nerves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Sorry, I didn't know this about myself, but I was a Dan Rather guy.
Dan Rather is great.
It's a great doc on Dan Rather that came out a year or two ago. I highly recommend it. You all check it out.
Yeah.
Follow him on Facebook.
Yeah. Anyway, so it turns out Dan Rather's going to be in Mandalorian. I didn't know if you guys got that news. Anyway, yes.
Love this.
Yep. He's going to play a Jedi. Breaking news.
An Order 66 survivor.
Order 66 survivor who's just over it all. Anyway, so Sigourney Weaver also said, Grogu's not the only reason I joined. So I believe the question was asked of have you been wanting to be in Star Wars? And she responded, well, I admire Star Wars, but don't sit around wishing I was in another franchise because I've been so lucky to be in some wonderful ones. But at the time when I was offered it, I was delighted. I'm a great fan of Jon Favreau. I was already a great fan of The Mandalorian. So it would appear that Sigourney Weaver's not sitting around dreaming that she's in Star Wars, but hey, she's sitting around and watching it. But also says, of course, a great fan of Jon Favreau. Favreau does command a lot of respect. Ken, what are your hopes for his continuing relationship with Star Wars after this film? And fingers crossed that it goes well for everyone. Would you want another season of Mando? Would you want Jon Favreau to move on to a different Star Wars project? Would you want Jon Favreau to just say, I've done my Star Wars work and move on to more cooking shows?
I was just telling someone this weekend, watch Favreau's cooking show on Netflix. They need more seasons. I think, as technology blares behind me, apologize. This question scared me in a way I hadn't prepared for, Joseph. I had not thought that this is potentially the Favreau swan song in Star Wars. The story we got to cover next and what's going on with the film side. Doesn't seem that there's a place for him there, though we didn't know this movie was going to have its own place even a year or two ago, right? So there's hope. I've really enjoyed just having him in Star Wars. I've enjoyed The Mandalorian, number one. It wasn't. I didn't fall in love with it as fast as other people, but it's such a great show. That first season, it's a great revisit. I just like having him around. I like having him as an ambassador for Star Wars. I love him at conventions. I love his joy. I love his skill and the respect that he brings. We are of the generation where Favreau is still the money guy. You're so money you don't even know it swingers guy, and then to see him kind of grow past just indie actor writer to a titan on the studio side is still fun for me. And I have enjoyed him in Star Wars, and I had not thought that, other than maybe executive producing, but I have not thought, Joseph, and Jen, that he might not get his hands dirty much more after this. So I hope, that's my big hope, is that there's still a place for him. Another season, great. Another movie, maybe crowded, but maybe so, or something straight to streaming, or something entirely new. I think beyond just his storytelling, I think his ability to run things pretty well is a track record that speaks volumes of him and his skill set, something that's valuable to a studio like Lucasfilm. So I hope, and I kind of trust he'll go on in some way, but it could be it.
I mean, I think he is one of the main reasons that this film is happening. I mean, Mandalorian and Grogu are very, very popular characters, but also he is such a steady hand. And I think from a fan perspective, we think so much about characters and stories, but from a business perspective, studios are thinking about relationships and who can they trust. And the amount of trust in Jon Favreau is, I think, part of the reason that is like, no, this is the movie we're doing next. So I really hope that it all works out and that he wants to continue. But Jennifer, what are your hopes for his continuing relationship with Star Wars? Do you want him to do another Mando season, another movie, move on, a new Star Wars project?
I said take a break. I really think that he's so incredibly talented at the business side of things, but he's also really driven by his passion. I loved that movie Chef with John Leguizamo. Like he takes risks, but it happens that oftentimes they're wildly successful. And I want to see him do that with something else. I feel like he's done his thing here with Star Wars. Do something new, maybe come back to it. I don't know. I want to see what's next for him. I don't want to see him get locked in unless he has something wild that he wants to do within Star Wars. I want for him to do what he wants to do. And I don't know what that is. If you know, or anyone knows out there, let us know. Is it food? I know he loves food. Yeah. So
yeah. I mean, I think the things he's said at conventions about just like, I'm really happy doing this. This is great. I mean, I think that he is in this rare position where he's accumulated enough power in Hollywood that if he wanted to go do, an indie with all the biggest actors in the world, they would line up and do it. And he could get the movie, get a green light real easy. I think a lot of directors are like, they're working on their own thing and they're hoping to get to Star Wars because it's always been a passion and it's a dream to get there. Or Star Wars is a dream because if they have something go well in Star Wars, now they're in the big leagues and now they can do other things. And like, I don't get the sense that he is on any sort of career trajectory. He's just like, I can do anything I want, and this is what I want to do right now. And there's something about that, like there isn't any sort of like storm inside about I'm trying to get here, or maybe this will get me to where I've always wanted to be, or I'm at the mountain and I'm trying to stay on top of it. He's just like, I got a gig playing with my action figures in a deep and meaningful way, and why would I want anything but that? So I think that to me is maybe some of the sense of steady hand is just I got an awesome day job and I'm having fun playing and telling a story. There's such a calmness to his speech about Star Wars and what he's working on. I think the biggest thing for me is I would love a resolution of Din and Grogu's arc. Like, I don't need them to be like they're locked away, but it'd be nice to feel like the story that he started with Filoni, but that he started resolves. And the Filoni New Republic versus Thrawn film has been described as a culmination of the Mando-verse,
right?
Which would be fine if it's a culmination of that era and pulls in lots of characters, and if Din and Grogu are in it, great, but are they the main characters? And I think what would be amazing for me is, like, how does Jon Favreau want to put a button on Din and Grogu, at least in this era for now? Like, how does he complete his version of Lucas made the original trilogy, and that's that story. And now you can sit down, you can watch that story. Doesn't mean Luke, Han, and Leia are done, but that's that story. And I would love to see him complete the arc of Din and Grogu in this time.
Right. I kind of forgot about the Filoni movie too, where Favreau obviously has a place in that. I don't want anyone to think I forgot about that, but I did forget about that. I'm aware of it. Thanks for remembering. Yeah, that absolutely makes a lot of sense, and that this could be. And I think maybe that's what all I would really want is to him to land the Din plane and the Grogu plane, so to speak. Whether it's another season, this movie, the Thrawn, Filoni, and New Republic movie, that would make me feel good as a fan.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it is just going to be, how does this movie do? I think if the film blows the doors off the place, there's going to be pressure to continue their story in Filmland, right. And if it does fine, I think he'll continue the story in a new season. I think that's maybe why we haven't had announcements. We love talking about Sigourney Weaver being in Star Wars. We love all of the Mandoverse, Jon Favreau in particular, casting fun, surprising people. There's a possibility of getting, of course, a Sigourney Weaver action figure. So, Ken, who is there remaining to be cast in Star Wars that you would like to be cast, just so we could possibly get toy versions of that actor?
Thought long and hard this morning over a bowl of oatmeal, where all great thoughts come from. And my answer is Richard Kind, who, if you don't know him,
Richard Kind.
I just spoke to him recently. He's delightful. He is. If you don't know him, you know him. And this last season of Only Murders in the Building, he was wonderful at it. Curb Enthusiasm, he just kills me so much. Going back to, I fell in love with his work when he was on the rebooted Carol Burnett show in the late 80s.
Yes.
He was great in that show. But he's just a phenomenal actor. He kind of fits that category of, really, with all of Favreau's big and small castings. Like, that totally makes sense that Brian Posehn's here. That's great, and he's dead. That's wonderful. Like, so Richard Kind and Grogu is a dream scene, and then a Richard Kind action figure.
That is great. That is great. I have been revisiting all of Twin Peaks, so there are definitely Kyle MacLachlan action figures. There's an Agent Cooper one, which is very expensive right now. There's also, I believe, action figures of his roles in the Flintstones film.
Oh, wow.
But I would like a good... Give me a Senator MacLachlan with a cape so I can have an action figure of him. That'd be great. Jennifer, any actors that you want cast, just so you could get a toy version of them?
I had to think about it. Has Bill Hader been in Star Wars?
Technically, yes. He and Ben Schwartz with BB-8.
BB-8
well,
voice,
yeah. But not on screen.
But not
in
on
The
screen,
Mandalorian. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But my besides Bill, as if I know him, I would say Rachel Dratch. I love her. So freaking funny.
Why has she? Yeah.
Oh gosh, she'd be so great. She'd be
She
so
could do.
great.
She goes through like one of those weird 30 Rock cameo characters she'd do, where it'd be like Grogu's aunt or something.
Oh my gosh, make it happen, make it happen. Yeah.
She's like some in-world fan of Grogu who's been dressing up like him with the fake ears.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Come
Yes.
on.
Oh, I
Oh,
love
man.
that. It's shocking to me that she hasn't been in The Mandalorian. It's so like, come on, what are we doing?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Any other thoughts on Sigourney Weaver in Star Wars, Jen?
No. Looking forward to her costumes.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be like, I don't know. I think what you're saying, Ken, like one scene, 2 scenes, maybe. I'm not. It'll be cool.
Yeah, I will second that. I think the main thing at this point I'm hoping for is a cape. We'll start that hashtag, cape for
There you
Weaver. I just think even if it's just one scene, I think there's it casting her for a reason beyond the publicity of a beloved franchise genre superstar Sigourney Weaver. I think, as a performer and is a person, the gravitas of her presence, and I hope that the role is one where she kind of gets to be like, wow, nobody messes with this woman, that you feel the power of her presence. Ken, any other Sigourney Weaver thoughts?
I love that she's in the franchise, and I'm not suggesting at any means that she's at the end of her career retiring, but there's a sports connection of a legend for one team does that final 1 or 2 years. Like, Joe Namath played for the Rams. Remember that? Like, after her long career, anchoring so many wonderful franchises. And again, I'm not suggesting she's at the end here, but I just love that now she's in Star Wars, and we get to say she's in Star Wars, and she might have 1 or 2 seeds. It's that one season, playing with Star Wars, but I love it, and then we love that we forever get to claim her as part of our franchise that we love.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of the franchise that we love, there was some other news about some of the behind-the-scenes stuff that it's all reading tea leaves because none of us are there. None of us really know what's going on. But here's the news article. New vice president of development for Lucasfilm. Some eagle-eyed Star Wars fans on Reddit noticed a change on Lucasfilm's website that Derek Hoffman had been appointed vice president of development, and that Raina Roberts, who had been with the company since 2012 and co-produced The Acolyte, has left Lucasfilm. Again, these are Redditors refreshing Lucasfilm pages. These are not press releases. These are things that have been noticed by Redditors. This is what Lucasfilm has put on their website about Hoffman. It says, since attending Indiana University, Derek Hoffman has worked in the film, video game, and comic book industry for the last 24 years. Getting his start with the Donner's Company as a runner, he quickly moved into an assistant role for director Richard Donner, and then to associate producer on the feature film Timeline and co-producer on 16 Blocks. Derek next became a development executive and later vice president for the company, where he worked on each film in the X-Men franchise, including as associate producer on X-Men Days of Future Past. Derek ultimately spearheaded the franchise's move into television, serving as co-executive producer on the FX series Legion and as executive producer on Fox's The Gifted. At Lucasfilm, Derek will help lead the team that develops our stories for adaptation in live action. Finally, the article that discusses this, that I got this information from on Star Wars Newsnet, wisely points out that Derek Hoffman has worked with Simon Kinberg a bunch on those X-Men movies. Simon Kinberg is reported to be working on a Star Wars trilogy. That deal has been reported on by major trades, so it is probably pretty trustworthy news, but again, not officially announced by Lucasfilm. So, Jennifer, where do you go with this? Any sort of tea leaf reading as to what this might mean for future Star Wars projects?
Okay. All right. So is her name's Rain, right?
Rain.
Rain
my
Roberts.
apologies. I said it incorrectly. My apologies.
I wanted to make sure that I wasn't going to mispronounce Rain. So Rain, she co-developed The Acolyte on set with Leslie Headland. It was lots of behind the scenes stuff I saw. She was also a part of the story group. She worked on the sequel trilogy, Solo, Rebels. She's now a development and production executive for Searchlight Pictures as of, I think, December. I don't know if she found the job and left, if she was kind of told like that because she was so heavily involved with the Acolyte, and there's been so much controversy with that, or maybe she just was like, this is not working. I need to get out of here. I don't know. I'm sad that she's gone. I think it's important to have different perspectives at Lucasfilm in those meetings at that level. I think it's very, very important. This feels, and I do not know Derek Hoffman. I'm sure he's wonderful. I'm sure he's talented. I'm sure that he knows someone. I'm sure he's going to be great. But to me, I'm like, I don't know. It feels very safe. It feels very, I don't know. How did he get picked? I'd love to know.
Yeah. I agree with you. I think that was my initial reaction of maybe these bits of news are connected and maybe they're not. Maybe it was Rain Roberts to say, hey, I really championed the Acolyte and I'm, not thrilled with how it's going, or maybe just I've had a long run with Star Wars and I'm ready to move on.
Yeah.
We don't know. We don't know at all. But in the era that we're living in, to see that somebody with a different perspective has left and somebody with maybe a familiar perspective is in, that's hard. And I don't know any of the truths behind it. All we know is those surface details, and it's all tea leaf reading. But that is definitely a concern for me. My biggest tea leaf reading is I think this is probably just Kinberg connected. I think if Favreau is on his way out, or if Favreau is saying, I'm happy I just want to tell my Star Wars stories. I don't want to be Mr. Star Wars. That maybe there is, a desire and a design with Simon Kinberg to be like, is there somebody who can be sort of the creative lead of everything that we're doing? And if that is the direction that's going, it makes sense to me that maybe he'd want a, producer that he really, really knows, working with him. Ken, what are your thoughts?
Well, I do know Derek Hoffman.
Oh, you do? Okay, great. Give us some insight.
I have his numbers on my phone, but if I called him, he'd be like, who are you? So I want to be clear and for the right. But he was a regular Schmoes guest. He was a Schmoes. Okay. He was a Tiffany Smith's chances of being Star Wars just shot up through the roof. As also, which would be great. But I want to start first with Rain Roberts. This is someone who was described years ago to me as the secret weapon at Lucasfilm. Someone whose contributions to the story group were immense, great, but also not, she was on social media, but wasn't out there posting every day. She wasn't calling for the attention. She just was really good at what she did. So I don't know if they're connected either. I thought her departure seemed familiar to me, like it had been talked about, but it's a loss. It's just a loss, whether it's under good circumstances or not. She just seemed to be really, really respected and absolutely made the Acolyte full of life and productive. So I think it's a big loss, to be clear, connected or not. This is a Kinberg thing without a doubt. Derek, good dude, right side of history guy. I'll just say that. But he's been working with Kinberg for at least 15 years or so. And so this kind of cements the idea that unofficial, I'm with you too, Joseph, not officially announced, but definitely seems like this is where we're going. So I don't have a good or bad take on it. Like I said, I don't know him. I used to have to book him for a podcast, and a good hang, like, and a good dude, but has clearly worked his way up and has a very impressive resume. So the optics aren't great, not necessarily his fault. I'm with you both on that. But I do think this speaks volumes of Kinberg and what will be his reign of power in the new era of Star Wars, which I'm not saying is a bad thing. I'm interested in what might be happening. Interested at all of it that's possibly happening. We don't know, like you said, and we always say not in those meetings, not on those calls. But yeah, this confirms the Kinbergness of it all to me.
Yes, it confirms the Kinbergness, and I hope for great things for Rain Roberts and seeing her future work with Searchlight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One last thing I want to say. The thing about the Kinberg of it is that, like, when you have certain people up at the top and then everyone's like, well, who do you know? Well, their circle is going to be like, I'm not surprised that Derek Hoffman is within that circle and he's going to bring him on. It's just like, that's why I get so frustrated, and it's like, it's just who's in your circle, who do you know, right? And that's how people go
tiny
up
little
the
coaching
ladder.
tree. Yeah, it's the tiny little coaching tree. Yeah.
Right. It's like that's how people ascend the ladder and are given opportunities from their buddies. Who are they hanging out with on Saturday nights, right? That's when the deals are getting made and those relationships are being formed. And if you're not a part of that, that's really hard, and that's where we well, boy, okay.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I think it is good to talk about, and I think we need to. I'm all for fighting the good fight and talking about it, and I think that is the hard thing of, like, as a creator myself, like, yes, I want to surround myself by people I trust. And particularly if I was working with a large organization, boy, would I be fine with it if people said, "That's great. Why don't you also look at all these other candidates who aren't in your circle who are also awesome and have just as impressive a resume?"
Yeah.
That's all that's being asked is, yep, all humans' instinct is, I have to do a stressful, scary thing. I will use my best friend.
Mm-hmm.
And all that's being asked is, here's 7 other people who are just as talented as your best friend. Give them a look. Give them a shot. That's all that's being asked.
It was the big value of having Leslie Headland get into the position that she was in, and she was pretty bold about, if I get up the elevator, I'm going to send it back down. And that was the value and perhaps the loss. I would love to see if there's a future for Leslie Headland in Star Wars, but I got to think she's probably home going, nah, not right now. And maybe the same for Rain Roberts. But to be clear, like we've all said, like it's not necessarily acolyte led to Rain departing. She wouldn't be the first. Carrie Hart moved on. It's you all get stagnant in your jobs. Maybe you don't want to live in Burbank anymore. I don't know. Like it could be anything. And I'm curious to see what she does outside of Star Wars too.
Yeah, could be the lunches. Maybe they're not good at Lucasfilm.
Yeah.
I don't. Anyway, I don't think it's that. So the future of live action Star Wars television is really up for grabs right now. We've got Andor season 2 coming out next. We have Ahsoka season 2 being worked on, and I don't think anything else has been announced. There are different rumors about Mandalorian season 4 or not, but nothing concrete. So it's kind of up for grabs. Maybe this gentleman, Derek Hoffman, is in to say, if Kinberg's kind of leading the future of the films, what are the television shows that can be in sync with that? He's not just a direct development for television, according to the statement on the website, but maybe that's it. But Jennifer, if you were directing development for Star Wars, what kind of live action show would you be greenlighting? What kind of live action show, be it structure or content, what do you feel like is the next evolution for Star Wars television?
Acolyte season 2. Oh man. Okay. Honestly, this is where I'm like, I don't know. I really don't know where Star Wars wants to go, where it should go. I think we're going to be seeing a lot of things shifting in the entertainment industry at this point. And I don't want to say going back, but did they have that Carl's Jr. commercial with the woman eating the burger? Was that aired during the Super Bowl?
I didn't see it. No,
it wasn't. Well, they're trying to bring those commercials back.
Oh, the sexy burger eating,
the sexy burger eating.
Like,
yes,
I'm a man. I remember being so upset by those because look, I am a straight heterosexual man who likes burgers, and those commercials disgust me. Like, you know what? I really, really don't need a bunch of objectification with my big greasy burger. Thank you very much.
So exactly. So if I read the tea leaves about, and I look on YouTube, which I told Ken a couple weeks ago, I told both of you, I was like traumatized by what I saw. The way that things are going, we're going to get sexy cheeseburger eating Star Wars gal and a bulked up Jedi who's on roids. Like, that's where we're headed. That's kind of what I've been seeing on YouTube.
Like 1997 EU, Star Wars EU stuff. Okay.
That's exactly it. What was it? The Power of the Force action figures? Were those the ones that were like all beefed up?
Yes.
Here's a sexy Sith lady. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, right. Exactly. Like Darth. What's her name?
Yeah. That one.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. That's kind of where I feel like the fan base is on, at least on YouTube. So I don't know. I'm taking myself out of this. I don't like cheeseburgers. I eat veggie burgers.
But do you want to see sexy half-naked men eating veggie burgers? Would that be?
No.
Yeah.
No, unless it's Chimere. That's all right. I'm not mad at that. I'd love to see Osha and Chimere together. That'd be great. Not in that way. I mean, you know what I mean, you guys. Acolyte season 2. I'm not talking about some fanfic that I'm writing here.
It sounds like you are, but it's just great. We approve of it.
Yeah. Bring on the veggie burgers of the Force. Yes. Yeah.
Lost it.
Yeah. I think for me, and I'll pitch it to you here, Ken. I think that stability, as much as I want all sorts of different shows in the Star Wars buffet, I feel like I would create something that's in its own little pocket. It's its own little show. I think Skeleton Crew did a great job of showing like, hey, it can be set in a time, an era. So we know kind of the guardrails of what's going on in this time. Lightsabers exist, the Force exists. People know about Jedi, but everything that made the show intriguing was meeting new characters and new places and new mysteries of the fun of not knowing something. And so the era almost doesn't matter to me, but like taking a show like Skeleton Crew, and from the beginning, it is not a film that's been adapted. It's designed to be a television show where there's a central mystery, there's an arc to the first season, but the point of it is meet these characters, fall in love with these characters, because we're going to try to live with them for many years. I think, a Star Wars show done in the model of 90s, 2000s Star Trek, where like there are conflicts. Deep Space Nine really was one of the pioneers of long form storytelling on television. But the big part of it is meet these characters, fall in love with these characters, have these characters extremely well developed from the get-go. And I think that's kind of just like the model of what streaming needs, is a little bit more traditional television. And if you commit to 2 seasons at least, then then you can get one out in a reasonable amount of time, and by the time you're filming the second season, if it's going well enough to do a third season. So that's what I would focus on, Ken.
Yeah. I look, I think there's going to be some more Star Wars TV shows, animated, all that stuff. We hear the scoopers are always saying, things in development. Well, of course they are. They're always going to be. But yeah, the future is unwritten, is the nice way to say it, for streaming across the board. I know there was that news story last week of Disney Plus lost like 700,000 subscribers, but Hulu may have gained more. I don't know the numbers, and we'll let Uncle Bob explain them when he wants to. But I love what you're saying, Joseph. Going back to the beginning with Mandalorian, and I think Mandalorian was this, but a lot of people had this like, what's Star Wars' Game of Thrones TV show? And a lot of the focus was on the intrigue and the sex, the violence, whatever, the dark and gritty. We all know the reason Game of Thrones worked is an entire world fell in love with characters, especially if you weren't a book reader. You fell in love with these characters. And any disappointment or upset emotions you had at the show were because the characters did something you didn't want. We're so invested in that show, and that's every show. I hear Deep Space Nine is good. I've heard that come through online. But you know what I mean, like that. So to really reapproach that with Star Wars, and if Skeleton Crew were to be it, but it's not to what you're saying of it's a series. We're doing a series. It's something new. No matter the era, I'm with you. At this point, I don't care about the era. I'd be excited in that. And can we get to that? I don't know right now with streaming or the industry overall. But that would be what I want. Yeah,
I'm very curious. I think an animated announcement is coming soon, so I think we will have that. But and then we'll have Ahsoka in a while. But it'll be very interesting to see where the future goes. Jennifer, any other thoughts on this news item about the new vice president of development?
I don't have anything.
That's just fine.
I'm
Ken,
not gonna have is curb my my thoughts.
Ken, do you have any other thoughts or anything you want to not say, but just suggest with your eyes?
The only thing I'll say about the Hoffman news and what's going on, it's all intriguing to me on what I would call the second half of Star Wars and Disney, right? Even though it's been since 2012, but like with the movies, Episode 9 behind us, no matter what comes next, and streaming changing, not ending, but changing. This to me is like the second phase, if you will, to borrow that Marvel stuff. And it's intriguing to me to see what they might be doing. All with Kathleen Kennedy still there, as those reports over the years of her stepping out or being removed or red eyes, she's still here overseeing it. And it's intriguing to me. So we'll just see. And I'll wait till things are official at some sort of convention.
Yeah. Ooh. I can't wait to see what news comes out of Japan and actually being able to cover it well, because we're not in Japan. All right. We are moving along because things are extremely difficult right now. I thought it'd be nice for us to each highlight a specific issue and a specific organization that's helping if people want to check out ways to be proactive, either with a financial donation or a time donation, depending on the organization. So for myself, I want to highlight the organization Trans Lifeline. Their website is translifeline.org. And here's what the group says on their About page. Trans Lifeline is a grassroots hotline and microgrants 501c3 nonprofit organization offering direct emotional and financial support to trans people in crisis for the trans community by the trans community. Trans people are being scapegoated horribly, and they are just people trying to enjoy their lives and their rights, and having to go through a really hard time for absolutely no reason. And this is a great way to help them out. Ken?
I cheated a little bit and didn't go to an organization, but to a system, Resist Bot, as people have heard or used over the years. The contacting your reps thing is pretty important, but something that I've always been lax on in the past. One of the reasons is, despite talking into a microphone my entire life professionally, I don't call people. It's the anxiety that rips through me when you're hey, just call ahead to the restaurant. I can't do it. So when everyone's like, call your reps, I'm like, I can't do it. Shout out to our buddy Hal Lublin, who in our Fortnite group last week was just sending ResistBot things. It's so easy. It's so quick. And you get responses from the reps that you write. The responses are obviously automated and, hey, Mr. Knapsack, I know Adam Schiff didn't write me. But to hear the stories, AOC's been doing great stuff on her social media, just saying, as she knits and tells the updates that this is being talked about, the enormous amount of contact to the reps, to the offices, to the senators. I saw on Blue Sky someone said, hey, I used to work for a representative, like 20 calls on an issue gets them sweaty. There's hundreds, if not thousands, of calls, emails, texts going through. It's easy if you have anxiety over this kind of thing, don't know how to do it. I've been using it the last couple days here. Again, shout out to our buddy of Hal, who's like, text us, Fortnite, also here's this, sign this. And it just, it's worked. So that's the thing I want to highlight too, as action.
I will just add, I have been using ResistBot. I'm going to, for the same reason, I'm going to try to get better at calling, but ResistBot is great. And Adam Schiff did respond to me in a pretty substantive way and in a way I didn't like. So it's on my list of things to do today. To send him another ResistBot saying, thank you for your response. This particular part of it is unacceptable to me, and I hope many people are telling you that.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yes. Jennifer.
Yeah, along those lines, I'd like to highlight 5calls.org because, as you said, Ken, phone calls work. Like you said, 20 phone calls is a lot. They really do take notice. I watched AOC's. It was like an hour and a half long live.
Right.
I watched it. I took notes. I'm not joking. I really did take notes. And she said, call. So 5calls.org is great because you put in your zip code and then it shows you who your members of Congress are, just like right there. And then the best part is if you don't like talking on the phone, like I don't, there's all these scripts and like different topics. So I'm going to be calling about protecting the Department of Education, but there's all sorts of different things. And it like literally gives you the script on what to say. You do it, it's done. And you can feel good that you're actually doing something as opposed to doom scrolling, which is what I do for hours and hours looking for a sliver of hope. And there's none. We are the hope, you guys. We are the resistance. We have to do this. We can't just wait for somebody else because no Jedi is going to be coming to save us. We are the light in the darkness.
That is beautiful. Ken, I will kick it to you to wrap us up.
Well said. Well said. Thanks for highlighting all this stuff. Joseph, great organization. Love that we're going to do that here going forward. And on social media, you can find us on Blue Sky at ForceCenter Pod. We do have a Facebook page, ForceCenter Podcast. If you're over there fighting for whatever, pinpricks of light on Facebook. I just go there to see who I'm deleting. Our podcast is available in a lot of spots. Just search, you'll find us. Merch available at tpublic.com/user/ForceCenter. On the podcast side, one of the things too to highlight on the feed, we have our databank brawl redo. We're doing the databank brawl rewind, and we're 57 episodes in, and that's podcast only right now to save you from going back to scroll all the way through feeds. Very popular, fun series from our past. So subscribe to the podcast to get that. You can support us directly at patreon.com/ForceCenter. For me, at Cadnapsock, or my website, cadnapsock.com. Head over there if you want to get copies, signed copies of my book, some stuff I'm selling, as I try to hold on to the web shop because all the prices in the world go up. Man, never seen a web store price jump up 800%, but it did. So check it out. Jen?
Wow. Okay. Where am I? I'm on Blue Sky. I just oftentimes just retweet things just because I don't have the energy to actually do anything. Jennifer Landa, Instagram. I got to put my Furby up, my long Furby. I'm staring at it right now. Just for distraction for you all. That's where you can find me.
That's good. Joseph, thank you for leading us today. Take us home. Where can I find you?
You can find me on Blue Sky as well. Well, I will definitely be, I reshare and vent about the current situation, but I am also trying to, post some positive things every once in a while too, because I think that is important to share the long Furbies of our souls to keep one another entertained and hopeful and remember what we're all fighting for, as well as making one another aware of what's going on. So you can find me on Blue Sky. You can also check out my website, josephscrimshaw.com, for links to all the other stuff I'm doing, including my blog, Finish Your Monsters. That is it. I think we have successfully talked about Star Wars pop culture in the Ultimate Adventure Life itself. So we are done for now. See you later.